Before we get into this video, a bit of context. I love Total War, and I've been playing it since I was a kid, and it's possibly one of my favourite gaming franchises to date. No other studio brings the same large-scale battles like Creative Assembly does. It's precisely this reason why I've chosen to make this video. I'm going to give you my thoughts on why recent Total War titles have flopped, and what I believe to be the key issues behind it. We'll then move on to my thoughts on how CA could solve the issues and bring the fans back on side. I know this is quite a controversial topic, so remember, this video is just an opinion and my current thoughts. This shouldn't be taken as fact, and my views may change as more information comes to light. I intend to make this video as constructive as possible, so with that in mind, let's jump in. Just before we get into the detail, if you think I did a good job with this video, please like, comment and subscribe. Every single one helps out the channel. Cheers. Total War. It all started in the year 2000 with the release of Shogun. Groundbreaking for its time, the gaming industry immediately knew this was something special. Since then, each new title has iterated on the Total War recipe, bringing exciting new features like siege engines, political intrigue, naval warfare, increasing the world map to cover entire continents and the cultures within, just to name a few. My point is that every game released was an exciting step forward and brought new features to the mix. So what exactly has gone wrong? CA had everything going for them, so how did their recent release of Total War Pharaoh get such a bad reception? Problem 1. Tech debt. I work as a software developer myself and always felt this point never gets enough attention. Every game since Empire Total War has been built on the same Warscape engine. Sure, each game has adapted it slightly for their needs, but the foundations remain the same. Think about it. Empire released in 2009, and the engine would have started development several years before that. There's a reason why every Total War game suffers from the same issues the studio can't solve. Derpy pathfinding, unit blobbing, frame rate issues. The foundations are 15 plus years old and can't be changed. Sure, you can solve bugs, make performance improvements and bolt on new features, but you can't go back and rewrite those foundational layers. Too much of the game relies on them. In software development, every large system reaches a point where a rewrite is the only way to solve these core limitations. This is called tech debt. To make matters worse, programming has come a long way since 2009. Total War developers are likely stuck using ancient tools and can't cash in on modern development techniques that are more stable, reliable, and efficient. Just take the new Manlords game as an example. How has an indie developer managed to make a game more popular and fleshed out than a AAA studio? Skill, of course, but also better software that's more efficient, techniques that CA can't access because of their old engine. Problem 2. Lost features and simplification. This one is probably more relatable to regular players. Great features have been lost. We've been introduced to things like naval warfare, visual unit upgrades, advanced city development and multi-layered sieges to name a few. Modern Total War titles since Warhammer have taken these away, replacing them with auto-resolved ship battles or simplified systems that take what we had and dumb them down. These are just some examples, but you get the point. Each Total War release feels less feature-rich than the one before. One of my favourite channels, The Terminator, did a great video on this topic. I'll link it in the description below. Problem number 3. FIFA-style business model. We all know the popular football game FIFA. We get a similar game reskinned each year like clockwork. They update the teams and players to reflect the latest, but under the hood, it's the same game each year with very few fundamental changes. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing FIFA at all. This approach absolutely works for them and the topic they've chosen. CA seem to have taken some inspiration for their latest release, Pharaoh Total War. Looking closely, you can see the same icons, user interfaces and animations that we saw in Troy. At a glance, you'd be forgiven for thinking it's the same game due to the identical art style. I'm sure Pharaoh took a long time to develop, and I know the devs did a good job, but the fan perception is that it's a Troy DLC masquerading as a new game. Pharaoh is the only Total War title that I haven't purchased. I just didn't see the point, as Troy offered the same experience in a setting I found more interesting. I'm sure many other players thought the same. Problem number 4, shareholders making decisions. To make it clear, this point is purely speculation. I don't know how much of a say shareholders really get at CA, but it's well known in AAA game development that the investors want to see a return on their money, and they want it in the shortest time period possible. CA has to commit to specific release dates in advance, and will likely incur contractual penalties if these are missed. Game development is complicated, guys. Under these circumstances, any business owner would take the safe option and choose to make a game using their tried and tested engine to guarantee the game is finished in the agreed time. Even if there are some limitations. It's sold before, right? Why not again? With my career and reputation and angry shareholders on the line if things went wrong, I'd probably make the same choice. But there's only so long you can keep milking the same cow before you need a new one. CA aren't to blame for this, but the external pressure likely forces them to make safe decisions with no room for risk or innovation, aka the shareholders and investors. So now that we've discussed the 4 key issues, what can CA do to resolve them? Tech debt. There's no way around it. CA need to devote time and resources to making a new game engine using modern techniques and leave their outdated one behind. With hindsight, their Sophia studio, responsible for Troy and Pharaoh, probably should have started working on this back in 2020 after the release of Troy. They're a good studio with great potential. If you forget the missing features and poor business decisions, Troy is probably one of the more stable Total War titles out there. They got the basics right. Get that new engine into development as soon as possible and use it to build either Empire 2 or Medieval 3. Without this new engine, Creative Assembly can expect every new Total War title to release with the same reception as Pharaoh did. Lost features and simplification. Bring back the features the fans love and want. Naval battles, visual unit upgrades, and large-scale world maps filled with diverse cultures. We appreciate these things will take time, and don't expect them all to return in the next game. Just show us you're committed to bringing these back bit by bit with each new release and promise a roadmap. FIFA style business model. Just drop it. Pharaoh proves this model doesn't work for you. New titles need to look and feel different and contain exciting new features on release day, not as DLC. Even if you've made a great game, spend more time adapting and improving the user interface on each release. We all appreciate each game as a reskin of sorts, but take the time to make the overall experience feel different from other titles. Shareholders making bad decisions. In modern business, there's no real way to get around this. I appreciate investors are a necessity for big business, but for your own survival, convince them that a new engine is essential and have a team work on this in parallel to your other games. Focus on your safe earners like Warhammer for the next few years and forget historical titles in the short term. They just don't work in your current engine. Don't be so secretive. Tell your fans if there's a new engine on the way. Tell us that you have our favourite historical titles in the works. We don't need any information, just a promise that it's coming. It'll take some years, but the wait will be worth it and the fans know it. With these announcements, you'll win over the fan base at a heartbeat and repair Total War's reputation overnight. CA just need to win back the hearts and trust of the fans. If you're watching CA, please take these recommendations on board. While the last few years have been rough, we still love your studio. It's never too late to get things back on track. Sincerely, a massive Total War fan. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.